Hello, welcome to GameGazm. I'm Brent, and today I want to talk to you about the Revo. What's the Revo, I hear you ask? Yeah, I heard you. Okay, the Revo is a Game Boy Advance replica, basically. It basically does everything the Game Boy Advance does, and a little bit more. So let's take you around the unit first, shall we? So on the front, you've got your four face buttons. You've got a D-pad, start and select, all standard gamey type stuff. On the top, we've got the shoulder buttons for use in the Game Boy Advance games. On the side, you've got the power button here. On the other side, we've got the volume. On the bottom, you've got a headphone jack for your 3.5mm headphones, so you don't annoy grannies on the bus. On the top, we've got the USB charge port, so it just charges by a standard USB, uses an ion battery, and you've got the brightness button, which also has other functions, which I'll go over later, but it does adjust the brightness of the screen. You've got an AV out, which allows you to plug the unit into a TV. And you've got the original link cable for Game Boy Advance games that used the link cable. I think one of these is things like Pokemon, where you could trade different Pokemon with your friends and stuff. So yeah, that's all the buttons and all the stuff. And let's take a closer look at some games. Okay, so I've got a couple of games here, and I just want to mention that one of the really nice things about this unit is it doesn't dump the game from the cartridge to the system. It doesn't emulate it, it actually runs it directly off the cartridge. So this means things like your save games go directly onto the cartridge and not somewhere on the system. You can also back up game saves as well, but I'll go over that later. So yeah, that's really nifty, and I've got it here running Street Fighter 2 from the actual cartridge. So it's there, it's running, it's looking really nice. While we're seeing that, the screen is probably my favorite thing about this whole unit. It is beautiful. It's so nice. It's big. It's very bright and colorful. Like, you can adjust the brightness, as stated before, to save battery. But overall, the battery power is pretty good on it. It will last a long time, even with the brightness turned up to the max. Also, now this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting, because it replicates the Game Boy Advance, but that's not all that it does. It's got a secret trick to it. So there's the cartridge there. Now what it also comes with is this special Revo cartridge. Now the Revo cartridge, it looks like a Game Boy Advance cartridge, but on the top it's got a slot for a micro SD card. Now the micro SD card, as you would imagine it, can put ROMs, can have ROMs installed on it. Ah, it's getting interesting now, isn't it? Yes. So we plug that into the Revo, just like a standard Game Boy Advance cartridge. And when it boots up, you get this Revo screen. The revolution has started, as it so clearly states. Now on here, I've got a few games from my collection installed on the SD card. Now this is really great, because it means that instead of having to carry around all these cartridges like in a bag, if you've got like hundreds of games, it's really handy to have some backups installed on your SD card. So all you've got to take is this one Revo cartridge, and you've got access to your entire library of games. How lovely is that? It does run other systems as well. It runs Game Boy, it runs Game Gear, Game Boy Color, Master System, the NES. So it does touch on other systems for emulation. However, I can't say it's the best device I've used for pure emulation. There are better devices out there, and a lot of the ROMs on this, they're a bit hit and miss. Some of them don't work very well at all. But I can say that the Game Boy Advance emulation, which it is designed for, works flawlessly. So here we go. We've got my just a few Game Boy Advance games on there. Let's boot up Metroid Fusion, shall we? So it's the top one. So it just loads the game. Just takes a few moments. And there we go, it started to load up. There. Metroid. So yeah, the emulation on this is absolutely perfect. The sound is perfect. The speed is great, as it should be, because it is a Game Boy Advance replica. So it runs Game Boy Advance perfectly. So I mentioned earlier that the brightness button on the top, obviously, yeah, it alters the brightness on the screen, as you can see, or it turns it off completely as well. It also has other functions, and this is mainly served for the emulation portion of the system. So, for example, if you hold the brightness button and press the left bumper, it'll take you back to this menu. You can continue the game, you can activate the cheat menu, the game guide, auto fire mode, and various other things. You can also look at the hotkey list, and this is actually quite useful to know. This brings up the list of all the functions that the brightness button does with other buttons on the system. For example, when you've got it plugged into your TV via the AV port, you can switch to the TV between TV and screen by just holding the brightness button and pressing left on the D-pad. So lots of little features there. The other thing is, when you're playing a Game Boy Advance game, because it's got the SD card in it, it doesn't actually do save states. Now this is a little bit odd, and it was a bit, I kind of guess, like for a game that does, for a system that does emulation, I found it quite odd for it not to have save and load states. But what it does instead is, when you're playing something like Metroid and you save in-game, if you're running an emulator, like if you've got the Revo cartridge in, you can back the save up to the SD card. So it creates a separate save file on the SD card next to your ROM that gives you your saved game. So it basically emulates what it does with a real cartridge. So that might be a down point for a few people. If you wanted to do some serious emulation on this, I wouldn't recommend it for that. What I would recommend it for is for anyone that wants a really nice way to play their Game Boy Advance games on the go. If you're using an original Game Boy Advance, I'm sure you know and you're aware that the screen isn't that great on them compared to screens nowadays. So if you're one of those people that would rather get something like this than an original Game Boy Advance, then yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I'm sorry, Nintendo, but your Game Boy Advance SP screens are just, they're a bit naff nowadays. So yeah, this is perfect for Game Boy Advance, playing the cartridges, and also emulation of the Game Boy Advance. But that is definitely what it's designed for, and that is definitely what it does very well. Now, where can I get one? Oh, I want one. Where can I get one? So you can throw your money for one of these at this chap over here, Retro Empire. Retro Empire have currently got a lot of stock of this in, and I think currently, at the time of recording, they are the only importer to the UK of this device. They ship internationally as well, so American fans, if you want to get one of these, you can get him through Retro Empire. Just drop him a line and he will hook you up with one of these. There's a choice of a few colors as well. You can get like a plain clear one, this black one, and there's also a blue, pastel-y blue one as well. So yeah, all looking very nice. So that's all the time I've had for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We do a lot of stuff like this. We review games and do a lot of bits and bobs. I'm sure you'll find something on our channel that you'll love and enjoy watching. So please come back and hang out with us. I've been Bren, and we'll see you next time.